Hello, and thank you very much for listening to this episode of the Get Out There podcast. My name is Billy Newman. I'm here today with Robert Biscarret. Robert, how you doing?
Good. What's going on, Billy?
Thanks for doing another podcast, man. It's great.
Episode 8. Here we are.
Yeah, man. I think this is episode 9.
Is it really?
We did that. Yeah, I think we're
Oh,
moving
you're right. You're right.
because we did that. Yeah, we
I
got through that one last week too.
I can't really count that well, so
Nice, but hey, I mean, yeah. It's hard to get the first 10 numbers in straight row. But I'm teasing, man. But no, it's great. I'm really glad we got this one coming together again today. It's gonna be cool. And yeah,
Cool,
man. Once we're over 10, that's the first hurdle.
That's it,
So
man.
yeah,
Here
there
we
you
are.
go.
The
But yeah,
back nine, so to speak.
no, it's good. I'm glad that we've got through a handful of these, and yeah, it's fun, man. It's cool putting together a handful of them.
Yes.
But this week I wanted to talk about some of the past truck travel stuff that we've done, and I think you're the guy who's inspired me to get a truck at first, man. Like for the longest
Gotta
time,
have a truck.
gotta have a truck. Strangely
So,
though, most of my road trip travel has been in a sedan, even still
and the
though,
Camry.
the old Camry, man. But
Yeah, but that Camry was legendary.
it was it was absolutely legendary. But for today's episode, what I was thinking about doing was kind of breaking down a couple of the stories in the past that we had about doing some overland stuff, some overland like travel. If you
Hmm.
could call it overland, I don't know. That's like a heavy word. I think that's a modern word, right? Like this term. Have you
Yeah.
seen that around, like overland, when people
Yeah,
talk
I've
about
seen a
that?
lot of that.
Yeah, it seems to be kind of the trendy sort of rich guy word to say four wheeling. Like I'm going mudding. You don't take a Land Rover mudding or
Mm,
four wheeling or something. You take that overlanding.
Overland excursioning.
Oh yeah, it's always that. But I think that's kind of a funny part of it. But I see like a ton of that stuff. I got into that stuff back in 2011, like the overland travel. Have you ever seen like the magazine
Yeah.
Overland Journal?
Is that an active magazine?
I think so. Yeah, I don't know. It's like
Okay.
sort of a niche. It's a niche category, like this whole thing.
Okay.
So it's like that thing you'd never find it unless you looked for it. But it's interesting. There's tons of stuff out there like that. But that's one of the first ones that I ran into, and
Okay.
that's when I had like the Camry and I was back in college and stuff. And that's when I first really wanted to get because I couldn't get a Land Rover from the 70s. I really wanted to get like a roof rack and a top box. I was like set on that because if I could get that, that was my version of making like a Camry into an overland vehicle, because I was like, yeah, man, I'm gonna get into this. But I'm 20 and I've got $138. So what can I work out with that?
Yeah.
But that was a part of it. So yeah, I remember setting up like setting up the rooftop or the top box, Man,
Yeah.
those were like super handy. Like, and that was great on the Camry when I had it. But that was all kind of
What
from
was yours? You had like that dual top box.
yeah. It was
Yeah.
I forget what it is now. I think there was like the Excursion that I had at a time, and then there was like the Summit model that I had at
Oh,
another time.
you didn't have the Overland model.
Didn't I missed out on the Overland model.
Bummer.
Both of these were like old, man. They were like, I don't know, the early 90s, maybe
Yeah, yeah.
early mid 90s or something. That's like when the plastic was produced. That's when that thing was called new. And now, it was just sitting on my equally old aged car. Going around a drive. Those things hold their value like crazy. I picked mine up, both of mine. I think now 3 of them in total. I picked 3 of those top boxes up
Oh wow.
on Craigslist. It was for different cars and stuff. I got a little fat one for the Camry. I had one for the truck, and we got one for Marina CRV. Or when I
Yeah,
say the
yeah.
truck, I mean the old 4Runner, which we'll get into that later too. But that long one on the old 4Runner. So I bought like a few of them, and I'd always bought them on used, like on Craigslist or something, right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
and because like new, they're like $500 or $600 to get into those
Yeah,
accessories for your
they're
cars.
not cheap, man.
It's super frustrating. And so even when they're used, they're still floating in like for good ones or for like stuff from the 2000s. That's sort of the more modern clamping systems.
Hmm.
Or when they made it better. Where you could put it on, take it on and off your car without putting together like a bunch of plates and little wing nut
Yeah, yeah.
brackets made out of
Something you
plastic.
don't have to spend the whole afternoon doing.
Yeah, it's great because it would always like it'd mess up. You'd get stuck in some situation like that when like I think one time we had to move with like it was you and I, Robert and Scott, and we had to like move that top box we're talking about
Oh yeah.
to the RAV, right? And we were going on that
Yeah, we
snowboard
did.
trip, so we had to like we had to put it on and like put like a bunch of snowboards on or something, and
Hmm.
it was just like snow and slush, and it's kind of raining. You got like you don't even have a headlamp. You just got like a light kind of crimped under your shoulder and neck as you're kind of trying to twist this wing nut back and forth to make sure that this thing's tight and in the right spot. It was such a pain, man. It was so awful. So after that, they made like more simple clamp systems that work better. But man, those
Mhm.
are like still like 300, 250, like the low end range, like the stuff
Picking them
that's
up
like,
used.
yeah, the stuff broken. I just sold one for like 85 that had like a big chunk missing out of it.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it's nuts. Yeah, it's a gold,
Yeah.
man. At least out here, I don't know. It seems like in Eugene, in Southern Oregon, it was a lot harder. I think I had one. It never sold. But it seemed like in Eugene and in Corvallis and Portland, or like, where that string of
That hipster
Subarus and top
overland
stocks.
culture.
Yeah, right.
It's where it exists.
all those overlanders out there.
Hmm.
But that was my foray into understanding what overlanding was, because I was interested in like that overland journal, and so I'd watch some of the stuff that was coming out in that, and it was just really all equipment that was unattainable. Like you look at like the sweet trucks. Oh my gosh, man, there were so many cool like land or like the Toyota Land Cruisers, but the set that they never built in America. Have you seen those?
Oh yeah, they're awesome.
They're so cool. Yeah, like all the ones that Australia got and like South Africa got. Those are like the coolest cars ever. Like you see them all over out there.
Yeah, they're so great. I would love to have them.
Yeah, just this sweet diesel left-hand drive or right-hand drive, like Land Cruiser truck. Like there's the Toyota Trooper. If anybody's listening and they Google that, it's like this crazy truck that they made for the military, that Toyota made for the military, that's like a troop carrier, but it's a Land Cruiser, but it's just got like a long back end and it's kind of squared off so you can fit 2 benches in there to load 12 guys or whatever silly amount it is in the back. But it just looks like, oh man, that'd be the coolest like camper. You take that thing. It's like the FJ40. You see like the old ones that look like the Willys Jeep. Have you seen that one?
Oh
around?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was kind of like or one of the Jeep models that they. Well, yeah, Toyota's Japanese, right? And I don't.
Yeah.
Oh, of course they are, but I don't know where else they sold like their equipment to for like military use. But it seemed like the FJ and the Land Cruiser line is used like around with them as a military vehicle all over the world. Have you seen that? Like it's the.
I'm not really familiar with that. No.
Or not like a military vehicle, but like we have a Jeep, and then we have a tank, but we have the Jeep. Like they have the Toyota, they have a Land Cruiser, or like a Hilux, right? Like your old pickup truck.
Yeah. Okay, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
That old pickup truck.
The SR, the 1980, man.
It was the best,
man. You're talking about my old one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And so,
I won't get rid of it. I still have it.
It's the coolest truck. But I remember learning about or it was just weird when I found out like about Americanizations, where in America that's called a pickup. Like that's a pickup truck, but out of the country the truck is called a Hilux. Have you seen that?
No.
Yeah, the international version, the international name for the pickup was the Toyota Hilux. And it's like it's got that like emblem in it. Yeah. So they'd sell these Toyota pickup trucks like Saudi Arabia or like ISIS, man. Like okay, so like all the ISIS, like the footage from ISIS that's like, why are they all in these like used Toyotas busting across this section of Syria? It's because the military had bought Toyotas as Hiluxes, like new ones. They're like, it's just like a sweet Tacoma or something, It's just like rigged up to ride around out in the desert. It's probably a great truck for it, but that's
why we should beat ISIS, is to get all of their sweet trucks.
we need all their sweet Toyotas back. No, that was that was like a gag in the news for a while, because like all the footage from whatever was going on would show these people, but they were like next to these like old pickups like yours with like a gun mounted in the back. Like the Warthog from Halo.
I've seen a lot of that. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, you think about like all that crazy stuff. But I think that was all like the Hilux stuff that Toyota would sell. Like Forerunners out of the country, they're called Surfs.
Really?
Yeah, way cooler name to have it called a Forerunner, a Surf. I'm not gonna buy a Surf.
The Forerunner is kind of redundant. Like, I mean, no matter what you have, it's got.
Yeah, it's like, well, something. I mean, we expected it would have 4 wheels, or it's a big truck. I guess it should have 4-wheel drive or whatever it's insinuating. But yeah, out of the country, it was called the Surf. I've seen a few of them pass by. Like you'd see them out there, you'd be driving around, and people are real proud of it, especially in that overland scene or that backwoods scene, man. People get
Oh
real
yeah.
proud of their rigs that they have set up. But we saw one that was like this diesel surf that this guy had imported. I don't know what the rules are on that either. I think
Yeah.
if the guy's a U.S. citizen, I think it couldn't happen. But I think if you're in Canada, you can have one registered and then drive it into the United States. I think that's where we see a lot of those vehicles.
Well, we need to make some buddies in Canada. Eh?
If we need that, man, I need a diesel '90s Forerunner. I don't know, like I need
Good
another
for
arm.
commuting. Good for commuting.
It'd be cool. Well, have you seen like the Mitsubishi Delica? That's another
No,
that's another sought after
you
rig.
are
Yeah, it's
blowing my mind here.
yeah, the Mitsubishi. It's another car that wasn't built in the United States, right? But it's become really popular in like that
Okay.
van life culture where people, like I pretty much like what we were doing in the Camry 6 years ago, but
Uh-huh.
funding it relatively decently, and they get like a van, and like it's become really popular to get this Mitsubishi Delica. They made it through the '80s. It was sort of a competitor to the Volkswagen line of vans that were out at that time that were kind of camping focused. But this one
Okay.
was cool. The Delica was cool because it was a diesel van, but it was four-wheel drive. It was like it was time when like Mitsubishi was just making a bunch of four-wheel drive stuff. Probably like the Colt Vista. That was a
Yeah,
four-wheel.
that's exactly what was just coming through my mind. If you don't know what a Colt Vista is and you're listening to this podcast, go look it up. And that was your first car, Billy.
Oh man, it was the best car. It was the best. It was the best car. It was the worst car. But it really though, it was the worst car.
Dude, I bet if you had that now and just put a little bit of money into it, somebody would pick that up, especially
Yeah,
in the
man.
Portland area,
If
and
I
just
put
be like,
some studded tires on that and a roof rack,
oh yeah,
an LED bar.
you want to talk about an attractive rig? Yeah,
Oh
an
my gosh.
LED bar, nice. CB.
Yeah, man. You remember that hatchback? You could fit 10 people in that car. I think
Jeez.
8 people. I
I,
think I
I
did
I don't
fit 10
think
people.
that's what they approved it for.
No, I swear I think it was 7 people.
It was what it was like rated for.
7, yeah. It was 3
Wow,
rows of seats, Robert, in a
that's what
compact.
soccer moms were driving around in 1983.
Yeah, it's nuts. Yeah, there was the front 2 seats, the back 2 seats that were like bucket seats too, and then behind that there was another bench seat for 3. So you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Oh,
6, 7,
jeez.
man. Yeah, yeah, it was crazy. Ah, what a silly car.
Hey, it wasn't aesthetically great, but it was economy friendly. That's for sure.
Oh man, that thing was so. Oh, it was the worst car. But so not an overland vehicle there, I guess you could say. And even still, like man, it had like 14-inch tires. It was so
Yeah.
silly. Yeah, I had no clearance to get over anything. What a goof.
But hey, you made it happen with the Camry though.
Yeah, I did, man. And I was gonna mention that too, because I had a couple experiences in the Camry.
Uh-huh.
You've always had a truck. I guess outside
I've
of like
always
the
had a
short time
truck.
you had a sedan to commute and stuff, but you've
Oh
always
yeah.
had a rig that could get some places, which I always
Hmm.
appreciated, and I really noticed running into a few limitations when I was in the Camry. I wanted to talk about those. It was great with the Camry because you really benefit from the gas mileage, which man I would
Oh
take
yeah.
because I mean in most of a road trip in some way is highway miles. You're out. You got to drive from here
Oh
to
yeah.
Wyoming, so
You got to put a lot of distance in between you and where you're going.
yeah, and man, it worked great having kind of a light easy car to like just bomb out to somewhere. That worked really well. Uh,
Hmm.
so I appreciated some of those parts, but man, we ran into a few spots where we just couldn't get through. And one of the most upsetting ones to me was the sailing stones. Have you heard of those before?
Is that in Utah?
It's in it's in the Southwest. It's near Death Valley in
Okay.
California, I
Yeah.
guess. And the Sailing Stones is a really cool spot. It was in Death Valley. It's like it's in the park area, but the park area is just so immense. It's all desolate, almost nothing out there. But you
Hmm.
take this road, it cuts back for a really long way. And man, we were on that gravel road forever going back there. You have to go. It's the kind of deep wilderness you would almost call it, but it's like deep and desolate country out there. It's
Yeah.
sort of well traveled because there's people kind of moving in and out of the park system. But we were traveling there in December. I think when we were moving that direction,
Hmm.
like early December of 2012, I think is when we were there, and when we were driving up just on the gravel road as it said it was a gravel road the whole way there. And this part of it, it just kind of went up a little bit of a grade. Just the hill,
Uh-huh.
the slope of the road just kind of went up maybe 12, 15 feet or so, and then kind of rounded off, leveled off, and then kept going. It seemed like almost nothing at all. But my car was near like high centering on it, basically. Like you could feel like the body like start scraping because the roll off of it was like it was just it was just
Yeah.
steeper than my car, like the angle of the car and the clearance I had could handle it. And I couldn't get there, and I'd wanted to go there all my life. Oh, I was so frustrated. And we were like 2 miles or so. It was like 2, 3 miles or something. Like, well, we didn't know that because you're like in backwoods stuff, and it's like I'm not gonna
Uh-huh.
park there and hike it or something. But
Yeah. And then somebody else rolls up in a vehicle that can handle it. And they're like, why is there this Camry parked in the middle of the road?
there was like a group of kids of like teenagers on little dirt bikes, like little 200s, and they were just like bouncing. They just zoomed right past us. Kept going, but they just had like a little bike, and they cruised right over it. It was nothing, man. Yeah, it was not. It would be totally everything could get over that except for my car. Is what it seemed like.
Except the Camry.
So yeah, no Overland that day is what it was. But that story really is what ended up inspiring me to sell that Camry that winter, and then like come back in and get a 4Runner, like when I got that '89 4Runner that I had
That
for a
was a
while.
good truck. I like that rig.
It was a good truck. I bet it was a better truck earlier, but man, it was a great truck for me, and I really had a great time doing stuff with it. It was super fun, like
Yeah.
and doing more camping stuff, and that was really cool. But that was the first time that I had like that truck clearance.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like a whole new world of opportunities are opened up to you when you have that clearance. It's like, okay, and you got four-wheel drive, so you can get a little more daring with where you're going. And even with that, though, I found that uh, now with my current truck, I don't have the winch on it yet, and
Oh yeah,
even that kind of dictates to what I will and will not do up in the hills, especially if there's not another rig with me.
sure, yeah.
I really enjoyed having that kind of that lifeline or that security, I guess, of having that winch that I could get out of trouble if I really got myself into it.
I
And
think that's pretty interesting. Yeah, I've never had a rig with a winch on it, but I really like that you always did. That was cool. I don't think we've ever used it together when we were out.
oh, I've used it on Tyler.
Oh yeah, yeah, pull him out of that sandbank. Is that what it was?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, doing a rafting
I've
trip.
used it
The
on
other
myself
Camry.
a couple times.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you just get into a rough spot, you've got a tree or something you can tether off of and get yourself out of it. But
I think that's pretty cool. I remember you telling me a little bit about that in the past, and it seems like it'd be pretty necessary if you wanted to do something more serious or more long term. If you're doing like an overland trip, or if you're doing some truck stuff or
yeah,
some 4x4 stuff.
well, that's the thing. I'm not a big like off roader.
Yeah, I'm not at all.
But it's well, I mean off road in the sense of like let's go mud and rock climbing.
Right,
I'm
yeah,
not
yeah.
that, but I do like trying to get into places where typically the road kind of ends or somebody hasn't been back there in 30 years and there's still roadway going
I think
and I
it's
want to go
really cool.
explore it.
Yeah, I really like
Yeah.
that part of it. I really like getting to those different areas, and you really get to get through so much more land, that way. I've found it to be really cool.
You do, especially Oregon in the wintertime. This area gets so much rain and stuff. It's hard to like, when you're out there in the winter, you get to the end of the road and you're like, well, I don't really want to backpack this in. It's
I don't want to
like
backpack it
I want
in.
to stay in the rig as long as I can.
Yeah, yeah, it's
And
that's definitely that's a huge part of it for me too. And let's see, I was trying to think
yeah,
about. Well, yeah, you should tell me about your pickup truck, your first one that you got in high school. Did you That was like an 80 with a straight axle, right?
it was a 1980 straight axle Toyota 4x4 long bed, and that was a great truck. It still is a great truck. It's currently sitting under a canopy right now. It hasn't run in 3 or 4 years, but um, no, I love that truck, man. I drove that from the time I was 15 until uh, well, 4 years ago.
Yeah, man, that
Um,
was a blast. That was the coolest truck.
yeah, no, I have always loved that truck, and that truck would go anywhere. I mean, the really the only reason I got out of it was just I needed something more reliable.
Yeah.
In fact, its last trip was the trip that Amber and I took down to Joshua Tree, and I put like almost like 4,000 miles on it.
No way. I
And
remember that trip.
yeah,
That was pretty cool, man.
yeah, and so that was a great trip to take it out on. Um, the harsh reality was, at the time, gas in California was around $5 a
It
gallon.
was, yeah, insane.
I was getting about 12 miles to the gallon, and that was rough. It didn't have AC. That's just little stuff. Like, I mean, people have been getting along without it forever, but
No, it makes a
um,
big difference. So I've learned it a little bit too. I mean, like what we both learned a little bit in this last year of like having a newer truck. It just solves
mhm.
a lot of those stresses about transportation, man.
Well, it does, and that's the thing is when you're committing to a trip like that, you need to know that your rig's going to be reliable.
It's been a
You
huge
know,
part for me
you
too.
you
Yeah.
need to know it's going to start back up when you're ready to go, and you're not
Yeah.
2,000 miles away from home
Did I
going,
kill the
okay, now
battery?
I gotta
Oh
tow
no.
my truck or something.
Yeah.
And the battery is not the
Oh
problem.
no. Yeah.
It's just like, oh, yeah, my transmission went out, or like
That part of
it
it would
just,
suck.
I blew a head gasket or something. Like, I mean, that truck when I took it, it had over 400,000 miles on it,
Wow.
and so you're just going, boy, this is fun, but really, I just need to make sure I get it home. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what it came down to.
Yeah. I feel like sometimes it's
So
like driving a classic car around. It just
yeah,
doesn't run as well. It's maybe about as old. But
yeah, yeah. And
yeah.
so yeah, and then I got out from that, and I bought myself a little '93, I guess it was, SR5 Toyota V6 pickup with little extended cab. I liked having the extra room, and that was a great little pickup too. It had that nice canopy with the roof racks on it. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. I like that
I was
canopy in the
sad
roof.
to see it go.
Yeah. It was too
Um,
bad. I thought it's too soon. But
Too soon.
I understand too.
But
I think it's good to move on, or it's good to like, use it
oh
while you
yeah,
can, and then
I
yeah,
see it around town every now and then.
nice.
Yeah. But yeah, and so since I've gotten into a full size truck, which I just wonder why I didn't do so much earlier.
Oh yeah,
Um, it's just having the room, the reliability, just all the difference in the world.
yeah, I think so too. I was in your truck like when we were on that last trip in Eastern
Yeah, we
Oregon, and
did
it
a
was great.
podcast out of it.
Yeah, it's super clean. Like I dig being in there. It was cool.
Yeah, it's far more comfortable than it used to be, cramming into the little single cab and having
Yeah,
a
right.
manual transmission and trying to get around.
I remember that first trip we did in your old truck, your 80
Yeah,
pickup when we were what 16, and we were going to camp
yeah,
up at Union Creek.
yeah.
What is that? Up in, I guess it's Central Oregon. I don't know. What do you call that? That
Yeah,
area?
I don't know what you would call that. It's up near
Crater
Crater Lake.
Lake area.
Yeah,
It's not really
Crater
central
Lake
or anything.
National Forest, almost.
Yeah, it's Rogue River National Forest because it's the rogue that runs
Yeah,
through that.
it
That's it.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think yeah, it's that area up there. Man, that was such a cool trip. But I had a great time. But man, like you're saying that there was like the three of us, right?
Yeah, just packed in tight.
Yeah, and I was the one that had to ride bitch in the center. As you throw into third gear, and then was it 4 gears, 3 gears?
Yeah, it was four. I ended up putting a 5-speed transmission in that,
I
and
remember that at the end. Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, it was just that 4-speed. You get it out on. It was great in town and stuff. Then you get it onto the freeway, and you're just tacked out at like 65. And just semis are trying to pass you and
Yes,
all
hey,
that stuff.
sorry. Not built to go that fast, I guess. Yeah. That's
Exactly.
silly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a sweet truck though, man. I really had a good time in that. But I remember that back in high school. That was fun, like making that road trip up to go camp and throwing everything in the back.
Oh
But then
yeah.
everybody just cramming into the bench seat there. Just how it used to work, I guess. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
a little more luxurious now with the space, I suppose. But it's been cool, man. I've liked. Well, you've always known more about like how to use your 4-wheel drive and like
Yeah.
how to
I
get the
uh
most out of it.
I learned how to drive in kind of like just kind of remote areas using 4-wheel drive and all that stuff. My dad, when we'd go hunting, he'd let me drive when I was like 8.
Nice.
and I'd drive us to wherever we were going out there because it's all just, old logging roads and no
Yeah, there's nothing
traffic and all that stuff.
nothing there.
And so as a result, yeah, I learned how to use four-wheel drive, especially learning on a manual transmission. Four-wheel drive, gives you a little more leniency on your clutch when you're 8 years old and you can barely reach the pedals and you're trying to figure out how to handle a vehicle.
Yeah, a ton more. I wish someone had shown that to me the first time. My goodness. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But how does that work? Explain that a little bit of like four low and like how it
Yeah, so
keeps running.
your gearing is way lower. I mean, essentially, like you really don't even have to know how to use the clutch. You can just basically let it out, and you're geared so low that the rig is going to take off on its own. Basically, I mean, you got to give it just a little bit of gas, and it's going to do its thing. But I mean, it's great for a beginner when you've never driven a manual transmission before, because it lets you get a feel for that clutch before you're actually in a higher gear trying to do it at a
Yeah.
dead stop or
Yeah.
something like that. So that was, yeah, super beneficial to learning how to drive. um, but then, yeah, I guess, we're always in a lot of like tight places that required four-wheel drive. And that's the other thing too, is you learn how to drive on those back roads and what it takes to get turned around
Oh,
when
yeah.
I mean, you get up in those tight spots and you're
Yeah,
like,
you just
well,
have to stop. Got to turn around right
yeah,
here. It's a cliff on
yeah,
one side. It's this weird ditch and rocks on this other side. I'm just gonna back my truck into. You know. Yeah, it's this
exactly. Or
tight little spot.
yeah,
Yeah.
or you're
Yeah.
backing down a hill.
Oh, yeah. I've done that where it's like,
But
well, we're not doing anything right here. So just, yeah. I think I got stuck like nose to nose on like with another vehicle on this one lane section that just like dropped off. It was out in Eastern Oregon when we were there, and it's just like,
okay,
oh,
yeah,
what? Like so I don't probably like what we'd run into at the Illy, but it's that thing where I think person the person going uphill has to back down. Is that the
yeah.
rule? Yeah, right.
I don't really know what the rule is. If there is a rule, it's definitely unwritten. Um, but
I think
yeah, it
yeah.
just kind of seems like the person that has the most leeway should probably grant it.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
you know.
Which seems to not happen as much as I would want. When I've been out there,
No.
it seems like people just like blow by center the thing and they just expect I'll get out of the way. Seems
Yeah,
like a crazy
yeah.
choice to me. I don't know, very rude people out there sometimes.
Oh.
But give me a berth. Stretch out a little bit, man. Don't run into me. But I guess I haven't been run into yet. It's weird though.
Yeah.
I remember like well, what I was talking about. Yeah, we got like there was 6 inches on either or a foot or something on either side, but it was like tight. There's no go around me sort of a thing. So I just had to back down like 500, 600 feet to the spot where there's a wide enough pull out where I could kind of tuck in and he could get around me. I was
Hmm.
just thinking, man, I hope that doesn't happen a few more times. Like,
Yeah, I hope you're the only person I run into
yeah, yeah. I got to get through this section at least before
today.
I'm just gonna have to go down here 2 miles and back out the rest of it. That'd be awful.
Yeah.
But I remember that years back of like people at the Illinois River, they'd run into that same thing on that tight little paved 1 lane road. God
Hmm.
knows how sober they were driving back out
Yeah.
toward Cave Junction again. At the end of the day of just sitting in the
And
river.
drinking at the river all day.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. World's best people out there, I'm sure. But
Oh yeah, yeah. Just some really stand-up citizens. I mean, anywhere that you have to like ban alcohol
did they ban
kind of
it
gives you
there?
an yeah. It's no alcohol allowed at the Illinois River anymore.
What? What is the Illinois
Yeah,
River then?
I don't
It's
know.
not, it's
Place
not,
of sobriety
yeah.
and self development.
Yeah,
Um,
that's crazy.
no, yeah, they actually ended up doing that. And you know what? I really am glad.
Oh, me too,
Um,
really. Yeah.
much of a booze hound as I am,
No, it's
I
broken glass everywhere.
well, and that's the thing too. And so much of that just became like your personal responsibility to pack out the things that you bring.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, I never understood that. You pack in a 30 rack of beer that weighs 25, 30 pounds on your back. You hike it in 2 miles. You drink all the beer, and then you just leave the cans that now weigh essentially nothing and
Yeah.
compact into something that you can put in a gallon Ziploc bag,
Right. Crush them
and you're
down.
just
Take it
gonna
out.
leave it there. Yeah. and so that was kind of the story of what was going on, and then just too many fights. I think,
Oh
you
yeah.
get all God. If anyone's familiar with Southern Oregon, you know the story, but it's you know, it
Yeah.
just yeah, it just became kind of a mess, and
Good times.
I think the people that were out there dealing with it just had enough, and they instated that rule now.
Oh man. The future's
Yeah,
just gonna be no fun, Robert. We're gonna
it
tell our kids
is.
someday, yeah, you used to go down to the river and just drink and throw glass and get in
Yeah.
fights.
Like
Yeah,
what? The good
yeah.
old days.
Well, I heard the same at the Tokenie Falls Hot Springs. They closed that whole camping
Same
area
thing.
down
Yeah.
because it was just too much trash, too much drinking, too much fighting. Nobody to regulate it, no money to regulate it. I mean, God
And
knows
that
what Douglas County, Josephine, Jackson County, Curry County, all that's like the poorest. You look at like income, it's like the poorest part or some of the poorest levels of county income across the United States.
yeah, no, it really is. Well, yeah, I mean so many of those places were all timber industry and
Right.
that no longer produce, and so I mean a lot of the economy went down with that. But I mean it's a shame that it ruins it for all the people that like to go recreate in these areas. You
Yeah.
know?
No,
It's like
it's true.
unfortunately these places of beauty also draw um people of lesser beauty, I guess. to
I
to
think about
eloquently
that a
put
bit
that.
too. It's curious how like the tone of places seems to change a little bit. I remember I was at I think I was out in like Lone Pine, California. Really cool spot. Seems to become super
Uh-huh.
popular over the last 6, 7 years or so. I see so much more from it now. But it was this area where back in the 50s they shot like people like Burbank, Hollywood would come up and they would shoot like Gunsmoke and like the westerns and stuff. They would shoot like a bunch of the
Yeah,
parts out
yeah.
there because it was like I think there was a couple scenes in Django Unchained from a few years back that were shot in that same area, and there's like
Okay.
parts of Iron Man were shot there when they had to pretend they were in Afghanistan. Like
Uh-huh.
anytime they need like this sort of desolate
It's
but mountain
barren.
area,
Yeah.
they go out here to this area, drive around, and pretend they're in Humvees in Afghanistan or something. It's kind of funny how it is, or Old West stuff. But out in this area, like it seemed like it had kind of turned into like a rougher area for a while. There's like tons of broken glass in the past, and then like now it's like an outdoors like rock climbers area. Like
Okay.
the
Yeah.
the market for it kind of changed, I guess, or like it just kind of got pushed out a little bit, maybe over time. I don't think they were crazy, but it seems like it's way different now, or like the
Mhm.
interest is way different. But maybe it's the same. Maybe it's like I don't know, in 10 years or something, it's like a super big deal to go camp or go look at waterfalls or something down in Illinois.
Yeah.
But no, never down there. It's just gonna be Cape Junction people, I guess. So.
That's what it's gonna always be, unfortunately.
I don't know.
But
It's a trip out of how that stuff happens. Um, but I was
yeah.
gonna ask you about. So we're talking about truck stuff. I wanted to ask if you'd ever used a HiJack before.
Say that again.
A HiJack? Have you heard of that or seen it? It's like that.
No.
It's like that tool. I think Dave has one. Our buddy Dave. I
Uh-huh.
think he wanted to show me how to use it one time. But you probably wouldn't because you have a winch. But I think it was supposed to do some of that, but as like a jack tool, like a manual thing, like so you could use it as a lever to like
Uh-huh.
ratchet stuff down, or that's like if you had webbing or
Oh,
chain or something
okay.
like
Okay.
that.
So it has a chain and a strap, and
But it looks like
is that what you're talking about?
it's like a 4 foot piece of like steel, right? It's like a big steel
Mhm.
bar, and
Yeah.
it's got like a hook at it end, yeah, and then like one of them kind of moves through. But you can jack something like or 2 feet or 3 feet or something like that.
Yeah, okay, so I've always known that to be called a come along.
Come along, huh?
Yeah, that's what I've always known. And those are super handy to have. Great tool. Um,
How do you use
yeah,
that?
fantastic. Yeah, basically you find a point of anchor. You would hook like for example, let's say a tree. Okay, you're stuck in a ditch. You can take um this come along and essentially, yeah, it's a lever on a section of chain with a hook on it. You can wrap it around said tree. Okay. Now from there, you tie off um, to let's say your truck. It's stuck in a ditch, and then it has this ratcheting um, Yeah, this ratcheting mechanism on it that gives you like a huge pull ratio, and you're using that lever as well. And basically, you can pull a lot of stuff out. I mean, before before tow trucks were super manual,
Yeah.
and everything was hydraulic,
Uh-huh.
they always used those on them.
Really?
Yeah, I've used it to straighten out bumpers on vehicles before. I mean, they have a huge pulling capacity. So,
Oh, wow.
really, yeah, great tool, great investment. Um, that's just one of those things. I mean, I don't have one in my truck right now, but that's definitely something I would love to keep in there,
Yeah.
just for the sake of, let's say, you nosed your vehicle into a spot that you can't get out of, and now your winch is unusable because it's on the front of your truck.
Right.
Um, it's something you could hook onto the tow hooks of your rear bumper or something like that, and still pull yourself out.
Yeah, wow. Oh, that makes sense a bit. Yeah, like why you'd wanna have one there. I've seen, like, how they've been used a couple of times, and it seemed like it'd be really useful, or
Yeah,
some of the stuff that it was that they do, but yeah.
so that's something also I kind of want to talk about was
Yeah.
just like outfitting your rig for these overland excursions, if you will.
Yeah.
Um, and just being prepared. Kind of just being ready for that unseen circumstance that could potentially ruin a trip. It's like I like having tow chain or tow strap or something like that. Something that I can pull somebody or have somebody pull me out of with,
Right.
because you never really know where you're going. A lot of times you're looking at old BLM maps or Forest Service maps, and you're just kind of going on a whim, gonna
Oh,
follow
man.
this follow
So
this
many times.
road. Yeah,
Or, like, what if
and
a tree fell down, and, like,
yeah,
it's just block or whatever it is, yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I saw that on somebody else's trip. They did, like, 5 days in British Columbia they were traveling through, and they took photos and they posted it later, but it was all the trees that were falling over that they had to, like, sit and, like, cut through for an hour, and
Yeah,
then kick out of the way and then keep going because they, like, couldn't s they're, like, hundreds of miles out, and they gotta go through, I guess, or, they're set up to. But they had this big, like, fireman's Pulaski that they were just, chopping away at these big trees that had come down.
God, I would love to have a Pulaski in my truck. They're just expensive, man.
Oh, yeah, they
I
look
should have
expensive.
should have taken one when I worked fire, but I didn't. But but no, yeah, having something to cut with. I usually do carry an axe.
Yeah,
That's usually in my toolbox. I mean, if you can take a chainsaw, especially if you're going to be doing a lot of backcountry stuff like that, where you're going,
right.
people haven't been for years. Especially if it's the springtime, you just had a heavy winter, anything
Ugh.
like that. All things to take into account and just kind of be ready for. Or you get up there in a windstorm and you find you're in an area and where trees have root rot and stuff, and you get to where you're going, you're driving back out, and now you've got, a 24-inch tree laying in the middle of the road,
Wow,
and now
yeah.
you're stuck,
Yeah, you're stuck there. Yeah, if you weren't ready for
Yeah.
it, or like, yeah, it's like, "Oh, well, we're sticking it out until until some Forest Service truck gets back in here in a month or
Yeah,
ever."
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Ever, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that'd be bad
So,
news if, or, if something like that happened, but that makes a lot of sense. What other stuff do you carry around in your truck for instances, like, when you're going
I
backcountry?
always I always err on the side of just like, what if I got stuck? I have a first aid kit. Um, I keep probably like 6 to 10 bottles of water in my truck at all times. Um, I
Nice.
generally have food. Some of it I wouldn't want to eat because it's been floating around between my vehicles for like 7 years now.
Nah, that's good.
But you know what? If it came down to it, I'd eat it.
Yeah, I've got a few things set up like that where it's like, well, if it comes down to
Yeah,
it, I'd be happy that it was around.
yeah. I've got plenty of rope. A rope is like one of the handiest things you can ever have. I've got lighters, a couple knives, just things of that nature,
Sure.
where you could really work yourself out. And if I'm planning for a trip or something, then I'm obviously going to step it up a little bit more. But those are the things I keep in there daily. Um, like a jump station is super great. We talked about that in one of the other
Yeah.
episodes.
I've saved myself a couple times by having a jump station around. That's really
Yeah,
helped. Yeah.
yeah, man. You get out to those places, nobody to jump you.
Yeah.
You know,
I need
you're
a better one now. I
it's
need I need a more robust. Well, it seems like you have
yeah.
to update them every few years.
Well,
Just
okay.
kinda like a
There's this. there's this new one
Yeah.
I just saw, and it's made by Goal Zero. It's called the Yeti,
Oh yeah, I wanted one of
and
those so bad.
yeah, if you have an extra grand laying around, you should go
Yeah,
pick one up.
that's why I don't have one yet. Yeah, it's the thing I saw.
uh,
It was a grand. Just an
yeah,
easy $1,000.
but it's like a full-on generator, man.
Oh
Apparently,
yeah.
it runs for like 12 hours. You can like power your house off. It's a
I've seen people
pretty
go for that.
significant
Yeah.
setup.
I've
Yeah.
heard people they get that as like kind of a core, and then they get a few of the bigger solar panels that connect to it. And so they do solar, they
Hmm.
charge that, and then they've got the power bank to draw like heavy power items off of. But it seems really cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
it seems like I've seen people take that. It's kind of like their like RV power system or their camp power system, like what we're talking about, where they run like
Yeah.
just everything that they need to off it. I remember being at the Gorge for the concert. I think with you guys for
Uh-huh.
for
Yeah.
Dave Matthews Band and like yeah the one of the party camps. You know what I'm talking about? Like where they
Hmm.
had like the
Yeah.
stereo
Yeah.
going all the time. I think
Yeah.
one of those was just running on one of the the bro camps from University of Washington that comes over in their mom's minivan, but they've got this like $1,000 this like I remember seeing a Yeti one of those Yeti power packs and they'd have it plugged in to run the stereo until the battery went dead. But it was like that whole weekend, man. They were just pumping out the beats.
No, you know what? One thing I really do want to do. This will take a little bit of fabrication, but not much. I mean, for
Right.
$100, you can fabricate this. I want to clear a little bit of room on the passenger side of my truck in the engine compartment.
Yeah.
I want to mount another battery in there,
Oh yeah.
um, and then have an isolation switch to it, so I can isolate it, cut all power from it, so it'll just sit charged. Um, and then anytime I need that, I have a spare battery that I can either jump my current battery off of, or worst case scenario, I could swap it with my other battery.
Man, that's a sweet idea. But well, yeah, because you'd probably want them both as car batteries. What I had heard of in the past, I think Scott talked about it. Our buddy Scott talked about it when they were doing that music trip, the music
Hmm.
tour thing. Um, but but I'd also heard of it from this other guy from one of these overland places, or one of these trips they were doing overlanding, where in the back he had an SUV, but he took a marine battery, like one from a
Oh,
boat.
one of those deep cycle marine
Yeah,
batteries.
a
Yeah,
deep
those
cycle
are great.
one, or like what you'd have in. I see them in the RVs too when I'm working out with those. They have the deep cycle marine batteries in there that
Hmm.
run the house. When the power to the engine's off. But I'd seen
Yeah.
that where they have like the car battery trickle charge the deep cycle marine battery during the time that
Hmm.
it's running, and then they draw, like the
Well,
longer
that's what
periods of times when
happens.
it's
Is
off.
yeah, your alternator is still charging that battery all the time,
Yeah,
and
but it looked like it was a
yeah.
really cool solution for like they just ran all their stuff like they would when they were traveling, or like
Hmm.
had stuff charge or whatever it is that they would want to do. Or I think that work on your laptop at night when your car's off. They could do all that
Yeah.
sort of stuff. Just run it right off the power from the car, but you don't have to worry about killing the battery. Man,
Yeah.
seemed like the
Exactly.
coolest thing.
Yeah, same principle basically.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's something I want to do. I think I can get by cheaper with just doing another car battery. Um, but regardless, I think it's a great setup to have, and that's something I'd like to do. I'm getting this.
yeah.
I'm getting a commuter truck just for work.
I think it's a sweet
Um,
idea, man.
yeah, so I'm going to be spending a lot of time just really turning my truck into a just a full time road trip, camping, hunting, angling rig that's just ready to go for any time, any situation. Jump in it and go.
That's so cool. Yeah, go truck,
So
man. Forget about a
yeah,
bag.
yeah, dude, yeah, I know. Just have, man. I don't know if I told you, but I was so I did a couple of these outdoor shows this year,
Right.
and I did one in Denver and then one in Las Vegas, and at both of them, man, they have all these different outfitters and sponsors and stuff that show up. So they had like at in Denver they had Ford and Chevy and all these different car manufacturers there with like like the 2017 2500 Silverado just fully loaded, just just so rigged out for just anything
Anything,
outdoors.
yeah.
And they had the Toyota, the Tacoma, just fully loaded, so set
Yeah.
up. just like the dream vehicle for the stuff we do, you know.
Totally, yeah.
And it's just so
Such
cool.
envy I have for it. Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
I know. But you're looking at it too, going, this is probably like $100,000 rig by the time everything's
Oh
said and
yeah.
done.
For a new
You know,
truck and then the whole
and
the
all
everything.
the custom modifications and everything to it.
Yeah.
But man, spectacular. I mean, somebody owns one somewhere, you know.
No, it
And they
looks like
are
it'd be a
set.
blast. It'd be so fun. It would suck to scratch it though.
Oh,
Ugh.
yeah, it's just you get that Oregon pinstriping on
Yeah,
the
yeah,
branches
right.
just
Yeah, it's just a bunch of
yeah.
blackberries scraping the sides as you're going down the driveways. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a good time.
exactly.
That's sweet though, man. I want to get a canopy for my truck. I think you were talking
Yes.
about getting a canopy for your truck. I was looking into it. I
Yeah.
was looking about how much of a tax return does a man need to get to own his own new canopy. I was looking at new canopies. Well, because I know that there's other canopies out there. I know that there's a
Uh-huh.
lot of canopies out there. Really, I should look into the reseller market more for it. And I know like
I
there's a
would.
oh yeah,
There's a lot of places that just specialize in selling nothing but refurbished canopies. And
yeah,
you can have them painted to match your vehicle and whatever else.
which yeah is what I want to go for too. And I mean, mine's
Yeah.
gonna be super basic. It's gonna go black. It's gonna kind of two tone with the truck is what I figured to go with
There you go.
the other stuff. But so that should be easy enough. But I want to get one that does match that truck. Have you looked
Mhm.
into that a little bit? I was looking into a little bit of between like ARE and Lear and Snug Top.
Lear and
And
Snug Top are the two that I'm really familiar with. I've had one of each.
yeah, and I found out the other
And
day that they're the same brand. Or like
yeah,
or it's I guess Snug Top
they
owns
definitely make the same product. Or are they actually
no,
the
yeah, Snug Top owns Lear now, and I think ARE
Oh,
is
okay.
different.
Okay.
That's what the little I went to some hokey dealership down here, and they're like,
Mhm.
it's like this and then this. It's weird. I've heard that in the RV side too, or same like GM. It's like a GM and a Pontiac and a Saturn and a Chevy. It's all
Uh-huh.
it's all like the same master company, but it seems like the
Yeah.
same kind of game in the truck canopy racket.
Yep.
But so I was looking at that. It seemed like it's $1,600 to get like like a brand new, nice
Oh,
one
yeah.
built for my year of a truck, which is it's pretty expensive. It's kind of what I figured for like brand new stuff though. But I want to drop down and look at the used market and get something sub $1,000, which I'm sure is out there.
Oh, man, you can get into it for $300 for a nice canopy,
I bet, yeah, I bet that I
you
can, and I
know?
want to be pretty smart about it. I'd love to get to save that much money. I was trying to figure out what to do because yeah, I had the Colorado, which is like the smaller size. It's like that
Mhm.
I don't know mid-size or something. I guess it's the same truck bed size as the S10 back in the '90s
Yeah.
and part of the 2000s, and then I guess like a lot of the other Colorados of that extended cab type. So
Mhm.
apparently, there's going to be a ton of canopies out there that would fit the dimensions of the truck bed. But I am kind
Yeah.
of interested, or what I want to do, I want to try and match it up pretty well. I want it to be kind of like of the same stock or something like fits that truck pretty
Yeah.
well. But I figure they all got
Yeah.
it, or if it fits, it's gonna kind of fit. If I decide it fits,
Mhm.
I could probably figure it out. I don't know. It seems cool though. Oh, the other thing I want to figure out is like the drawers. I talked to you about that before too. Like
Oh,
I've seen those.
yeah.
Like I've seen people build them out of plywood. I've seen companies now making them where they have like like I think ARE. Like you can buy the canopy, right? But then you can also
Mhm.
buy this piece. I don't know what it is, but it's shaped like your truck bed, and you
Yeah.
like fit it in there kind of around the wheel well. And it's like these two long drawers, like these kitchen drawers that pull out, but they're just like 4 feet
Mhm.
long, and you just slide it out. You drop your tailgate, and you just slide these two sweet drawers out, load all your stuff in there, and then you put your pads and your mattress or whatever it is over the top, and you just have all your storage and then your sleeping area and stuff right inside your canopy.
Yeah, no, I've seen those. Those are awesome, man. And actually, I've seen a couple people do that same thing out of plywood, and I kinda did that
Right.
for a work vehicle one time.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
I mean, if you have a canopy and it's gonna stay out of the rain, I would say go out of plywood if you have any type of, like, building ability,
Right.
because you can be into it, $150 and a Saturday and have a pretty legitimate setup.
Oh yeah, I would go that
Um,
route definitely.
yeah, yeah. Um, and another thing, like, uh, an on the same lines of building stuff like that, not just for your truck, I built that kitchen box,
Right.
for for going along on trips, and that's been so helpful to have.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's just like,
Some
you know,
constructed box where you put that set of things in. That's helped us a
exactly.
lot too. We figured that kind of early on too, but, but it was like, yeah, we were like just out of college, so instead of like building a sweet kitchen box that was actually functional for a long time, we got at
Uh-huh.
like a filing box. Like if you go
Oh yeah.
down, like for everybody that's doing their taxes last minute and they have to go through, there's like these little file boxes that are for like manila folders to sit in,
Hmm.
and you're just supposed to stack your stuff in and store it in the closet or whatever. It's like an office space or office keeping supply thing. But they're like $5 or something a piece. They're just like these cheap, but like 12 by 12 little plastic containers. We're like, man, okay, we're gonna get like two of these. And this one's gonna be our kitchen. Like everything that's part of like
Yeah.
the kitchen stuff, it all goes in this one. But that's helped so much to contain and sort of separate between like, all right, this is all the shower stuff that we want to have. That's gonna be all over there. This is all the kitchen stuff. This is the
Hmm.
food stuff, man. That helped so much to like just organize those smaller pieces in camping.
Well, so much of that, yeah, so much of that, like, road trip and stuff is like, or that weekend warrior type thing where you're gonna get out there and go do it. Really takes organization because I mean, otherwise you're spending, all of Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday trying to get stuff ready, and then
Totally
just so
true.
you can leave on a, Friday night or a Saturday morning and get the most out of your weekend. But when you have all that stuff ready, organized, it always stays there. It never leaves. It it's so much better, man. It takes off so much of the stress of doing that because you just get to go and then come back,
Man, I
take it
think
out, deal with it later.
I think that's a huge improvement, and I could definitely see how valuable that would be. I mean, even for I mean, it's the beginning of the season, so I'm rusty, but I consider myself fairly well prepared for some camping stuff. To get
Yeah.
started to jump into it. And when we went on that trip together, when we met up with you out in Plush, that was
Hmm.
like 2 whole evenings after work's worth of like prepping different types of things to get ready to go, and you go, oh,
Oh yeah.
I forgot about how much work this is.
No, and that's it too. Is like as ready as I was. I mean, I still packed from probably like Tuesday on. Just kind of because, and also let's be fair. This is like one of the first trips of the season.
Oh
So
yeah,
it
it's
was also
rusty.
kind of like, well,
Clean it
what am I
out.
missing in that kitchen box? Like, what do I need to do here? I need to get stuff cleaned up, organized again.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
once you're in the swing of things, then you're good to go.
yeah. Once
Then
you
you get
get
to utilize your time.
yeah, you get kind of like you kind of evened out to it all after a bit of time. It's kind of cool
Yeah.
how that goes. I like that part when you get a couple experiences under your belt. You practice a couple times, and then it's smoother sailing from there on.
Exactly. Yeah.
Sometimes I don't know. Then you run into stuff.
Yeah, it's like anything. You do it enough, you get more efficient at it.
Yeah, I believe it. But Robert, thanks a
Yeah.
lot for doing this podcast, man. I really
Hey, no
appreciate
problem.
talking about truck stuff, talking about trips and stuff. We got so many other trips and stuff that we did on the truck too. I want to talk about that some other time. Be
Yeah.
sweet.
No, I'd like to. No, we got enough stories to keep going for a while. Um, but hey, on a side note, we were talking about all these places that we enjoy going that have been getting shut down or heavily monitored due to people like littering and doing stuff like that. If you're an outdoor recreator and you like enjoying these places, which you should because you're listening to this podcast, um, pack your stuff out. Leave stuff better than you found it and take care of it. It's not just for us, it's for future generations.
Yeah.
And if we want to keep having rights to these areas and things, then we need to kind of maintain them and be responsible with them. So that's
It's
my concluding thought, I suppose.
I think it's super important. And
Yeah.
yeah, it really makes a lot of sense. I think it was like Roosevelt when he put together the Parks Service. I think he said that
Hmm.
these resources, everybody was mad. They were like, "No, give us the stuff. It's our land. If it's the public's land,
Yeah.
give us those trees now. We want to cut them down. We want to burn it." He said,
Yeah.
"No, it's left to the womb of time." I think is
Yeah.
what is what he
Exactly.
called it.
That
Right?
that is what he said. Yeah. Um, no,
Cool,
what
cool
incredible
wording for it.
foresight,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Like we need it still in the future, and people in the future from us now still are gonna need it.
Hmm.
And
And it's funny because now he's a hero, and at the time he was, everybody
yeah,
resented him for that.
disdain for the
Yeah.
idea. But we see it even still. I mean, Robert, going out a few weeks ago, seeing what's out there in Lakeview, and you just look around it at that kind of landscape and how unchanged it's been. for a few hundred years, and then kind of
Yeah.
seeing those areas where, wow, there used to be water here. There's these artifacts here. You see these petroglyphs on the rocks out here from the native people that lived in the area,
Yeah.
and you go, man, this is unchanged. This needs to be protected in some way, or it can't be just disturbed and just ruined by people, or it'd
Yeah.
be
No,
such a
I
shame.
think that area would have looked a lot better with some duplexes.
Run some tract housing in there. Put some oil pumps in there. Get the uranium mine
Exactly.
industry up and running there. Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, take care of those lands. They're for all of us. If you're an American citizen, you own them.
Yeah.
So
It's
respect them.
it's still an amazing benefit that we have in this country to have so much public land and really just so much wilderness area that is hardly managed at all. There's so much that's ours that we have a lot of agency over. Like even just as
Well,
people
we
visiting
do.
it.
I mean, we're the world leader as far as land conservation goes. I mean,
Wow.
as far as like maintained public lands, there's no place in the world that has the same opportunities that we do as far as that goes.
Yeah. I think it's a really cool thing,
So
and it's just it's just awesome that we have, so much opportunity now to get access
yeah,
to it. But yeah, man,
it is.
it's
Yeah,
cool. But Robert,
and
thanks so much for doing.
also
Oh, go ahead, Rob. Sorry.
BillyNewmanPhoto.com.
Hey,
Plug it.
thanks, man. Yeah. Got
Yeah,
to plug the site at Billy Newman on Instagram. I don't know, but that's the best stuff. Yeah, find some photos and stuff. We've got I don't know. Yeah, check out the podcast. Like you probably are. Subscribe if you can. Shoot us an email. Goodness, if anybody actually listens to this, yeah,
yeah,
shoot us an email or a message or something, or leave a comment on the YouTube or the well, I think it's maybe going to be on YouTube or the iTunes listing. Leave us a
that's
review or a
yeah,
comment there, man. Whatever. There's places you can contact us. Any
yeah.
of those
Leave
will be
us
cool.
something. Give us some fodder, something to work with.
Yeah. What do you guys want to know about? Yeah,
Yeah. What are your questions?
they want to know about how we drove our trucks around the Illinois River. That's how they, I'm sure that's what number one topic of this podcast in the future. But Robert, thanks, man,
Exactly.
for doing this podcast. I really appreciate it. It's really cool.
Hey, absolutely, and thank you guys for listening.
Yeah, episode 9, man. We're working it out. And you
Here we
sound
are.
great tonight. You came through really clear on FaceTime. It was
Good,
fantastic.
good. That's fantastic. That's a rarity in these parts.
Good internet day. It's weird how it is. It's like a burn day, right? When the smoke would stay low, like, oh, no burn day.
Oh yeah.
It's like
All
a no
soft in.
podcast day. There's no bandwidth.
Yeah.
No bandwidth to the countryside today. No podcasts.
That's right.
But Robert, thank you very much, man. I really appreciate you doing it.
Yep.
We're coming back next week. Episode 10. It's gonna be the same. It's gonna it's gonna we'll get through it. It'll be great, man.
It's gonna be better than all the other ones.
Oh
It's gonna
yeah.
be the
Oh
best
that's
to
what I
date.
meant to say.
Yeah.
I got a hype. But Robert, yeah, I think it's fantastic, man. We're gonna come back next week, next Wednesday. We'll probably put up another episode of the Get Out There podcast, episode 10. It's gonna be sweet, man. I appreciate it.
You betcha.
So, on behalf of Robert Biscarret, thank you very much for listening to this episode of the Get Out There podcast.